Hi, this is Anna Holden, an intuitive health coach, and today I'll be showing you how to make ghee. So making ghee is one of those things that's actually really simple. It seems a lot harder than it is. You only need a few ingredients. So let's get started. So to get started, I'm just going to take the butter and place it in the pan. I'm going to turn the stove onto medium or medium-low, and I'm going to let it melt. The process of ghee is about taking the milk fats and separating them from the oil of the butter, and then allowing the water to evaporate off of the butter. So all you're left with is just that pure oil, or ghee. So here I'm just letting the butter melt. I'm not playing with it. I'm not, trying to break it up. I'm just letting it melt. For me, now that I've made ghee so many times, I'll even leave the room at this time and just start to let it do its thing. But for the first few times you make ghee, you'll want to watch it. Alright, so now our butter is melted and it's starting to boil. And basically we want to let the boiling do the process for us. The bubbles, and you'll get a close-up in a minute, are really big right now. So they're allowing a lot of evaporation to that water to come off, and they're letting the solids sink to the bottom. So we'll get a closer look. I'm on medium to low heat, and this is boiling, pretty intensely. We want to keep it that way. We don't want it too much, but we want it to allow the bubbles to come up. And right now, if you can hear it, there's a lot of sound. The bubbles are really big. This means that there's still a lot of water and solids in our ghee, so we're gonna let this go for about 15, maybe 20 minutes, and we'll start to see it change through the process. The bubbles here are starting to get smaller, which means there's less moisture that's evaporating, and just the pure oil is starting to bubble. Now notice through this process I haven't stirred the ghee. It's really tempting when there's something on the stove to grab a spoon and start to stir, but we don't want to disrupt the process of letting those solids settle to the ground. We don't want to bring them back up. So instead I've been slowly adjusting the heat down. This is a pretty strong stove, so I've been adjusting the gas to be a little bit lower just to make sure that I'm not burning those solids that have sunk down to the bottom. So now let's look at how the bubbles are changing. You'll notice that there are still some bigger bubbles. Those are water bubbles. But you can also see the pure oil just starting to bubble. That creates those small bubbles. And what I start to notice is that the sound changes. It goes from being a loud sound to quieter bubbles. And the aroma, you can't smell it here, but the aroma really starts to smell like buttered popcorn in your house. That's when I know that it's getting close. Our ghee has become really clear. Now, whatever reason, for different kinds of butter, you may get a layer of kind of white solids on top as well. And if that's the case, you could take a spoon and kind of move them to the center to see what's going on with your ghee. So at this point, this is when I usually tip the pan, and I look for those solids on the bottom of the pan. And still, right now, they're like a nice white color. And I'm still getting some larger bubbles. So at this point, you could finish your ghee, you could be done with it. I like to wait till my solids are a little bit golden. They're starting to roast a little bit, but not burnt. That's a fine line, so you want to be careful with that. You don't want to let the ghee burn. So I'm just going to turn the stove off, and I'm going to let it sit for a minute. Sitting will help kind of striate the layers so that you've got the solids on the bottom, the fresh ghee in the middle, and sometimes you have that top layer. This butter, for whatever reason, we don't have much of a top layer. So then I'll prepare my funnel. So I'm going to take my pint jar, it's nice and clean, sanitized and dry, and set my funnel inside. Now I'm using cheesecloth here, and I'm using about 3 or 4 layers of cheesecloth. I don't always have cheesecloth around. So in my house, I might use a paper towel or a clean old t-shirt or anything else that helps separate those solids from the liquid. So I'm going to put a couple of layers of this cheesecloth into my funnel. So it looks like that, not completely blocked. As I'm using a ladle, I'm being careful not to scrape the bottom of the pan and bring those solids back into the ghee. And the longer you let the pan sit, the easier it can be to just pour that center layer right out. Okay, so you can also just do a quick pour. And you'll see, this is what the bottom of the pan looks like. You've got those milk solids at the bottom. They've all come out. They're a little bit golden. You can let them get a little bit more golden, but then you risk burning your ghee. So I know that sometimes I like to scrape those out and put them on toast, or you can feed them to your dog, or you can just scrape them into the trash. So here is our finished product. We have nice golden liquid ghee. Ta-da! So your ghee, stored at room temperature. It will be a mixture of solid and liquid, kind of like coconut oil. On a warm day it'll be liquid, on a cool day it'll be solid. If there's any water still left in this butter, then your ghee could mold a little bit more easily. So just make sure that you have a clean spoon or knife every time you reach into your ghee. But I've really never had a problem. You can store it on the countertop for a few weeks. And that's how easy it is to make your ghee.